For a man that needs no introduction, you know, there's a few pioneers in the UFO speaking world. And I remember all my life having a UFO experience, you know, growing up, like at, you know, in 1969, 7 years old, and trying to prove to my parents that there's aliens, that what they're showing isn't happening on the moon, and, you know, how many people could you go to see what was going on? And then I learned about Alex and started watching his videos, and of course it was VHS back then, and going to conferences, and it's, you know, I'm so happy that you hung in there so long and have done all the great stuff and helped me clear up a lot of questions. And I know we're going to have a lot of questions tonight. We'll be lining up over here and asking questions here. But my favorite andromedan, Alex Collier. I'm sorry, there's a car blocking, a SUV blocking a pathway, and it's CV966. It's a California license plate. If that's your car, please move it. It's blocking the path. The white SUV, I guess. CV966.
Okay, we're good.
California license plate. Thank you.
So we're good? Okay. Hi. Except for the car. It's not my car. Thank you very much to Rob for inviting me, and thank you all of you. You know, it's been quite the journey, and you know, when I first started this, things were very, very different. You know, we were still on pagers. We had just gotten internet, or some people had, but everything was VHS. And, you know, information traveled really slow. And there was a real benefit to that. Because, you know, I would have time to brace myself. Now it's like instant. It's everywhere. And, you know, sometimes you just don't have time to brace for the backlash. And there was a lot of backlash then. It was very, very different. You know, I did the Dog and Pony show, went and did the conferences, did the UFO Congress a couple of times, and those checks bounced. So it was very interesting. They talked the talk, but they ran everything like it was deep state. And there's still a lot of that going on today, you know. So it's been really interesting. And the greatest change is, of course, you guys, the people, the young people, the older generations, vintage like I am, people figuring it out and being able to put all the pieces together. And, you know, if you're paying attention to current events, you know that the dominoes have started to fall, right? So you're beginning to see the white hats. You're beginning to see things take shape. And I know that things have been delayed. And there's a reason for that, and I'm going to share that with you. There is actually a really good reason why there was a delay. If you remember the Q posts, they said, watch the water. Now, a lot of people have run with that in all kinds of directions. What they didn't say was that they were referring to heavy water. So those of you who are veterans, military people, heavy water is used in the making of nuclear-grade plutonium. There have been 3 broken arrows. Do you understand the term broken arrow? Okay. Nuclear missiles, warheads have been missing from our arsenal. That's what that was. So they had to find them. One, they had to locate them, then find them, then go in and get them and retrieve them. And sometimes this was very difficult. And then, of course, once you've done that, then you have to disarm them. Now, it's not that the weapon itself would ever go off, because that's not possible. However, the charge, the ignition, is also plutonium. And that is enough to basically create a dirty bomb that would take out anywhere from 10 to about 20 miles, square miles. that alone. So there was a lot of blackmail going on regarding the deep state. Now, I don't know that all of them were in the United States. I know for a fact at least one was. The other two may have been in the States or one over in Europe. But, this is who we're dealing with. We're going to let these things go unless, you do this or you do that. And, of course, the time for negotiations was over a long time ago. So this was a process. This is why things were taking so long. This should have been done last year, but this was the deep state's trump card. This was their play, was we're going to do this, unless we get pardons, et cetera, et cetera. What they just simply didn't count on was the fact that they no longer had their dark extraterrestrial guardians, but we do. We have our light guardians. All right? And there's going to be a speaker here. I'm not sure what day he speaks. His name is Dave Wallace. Dave and I talked on the phone, and last night we all met at Rob's, and I was floored by his experience. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not easy to impress. I was floored. So he takes all this information that we've all been gathering, and he takes it to the next level, which is exactly how this thing works. We're bridges. Those of us who are old school, we're bridges to now, and then the new crop or the new generation takes over with their own perspective. And you have a lot of young kids that are starting to talk and wanting to share their experiences. And the beautiful thing about this is that they're going to be talking to their own generation. Now, the platform, the stage, the things that we put in place, the foundation that we lay in place, they're going to take, and they're going to completely flip the matrix and the society upside down. Because these kids grew up in this system, and when they finally get it, when they finally realize how full of shit this whole thing has been, they're going to flip on it. And they're going to be really pissed because they've done everything that was asked and it was all a lie. So, dramatic changes. It's going to be really quite remarkable. Now, we have roughly 8 years before 2030 when the real shift happens. So we have literally 8 years to prepare everybody for what's to come. And how to do that is going to be a very interesting task. But first, everybody has to know what's been going on. And you're beginning to see disclosure. I mean, it's remarkable that the dominoes that have happened just in the last 3 weeks. The climate change scenario is done. The European Parliament destroyed that today. Yeah. And it's not that, we shouldn't treat the earth better. It's not that we shouldn't trash the environment. That, we need to be better stewards. We obviously do. But we weren't the ones chemtrailing for 30 years. Okay, we were not the ones dumping batteries in the Pacific Ocean. All these things that they're saying is wrong with the earth, we're not the ones that did this. It doesn't mean we shake responsibility. We should expect more from our corporations. We should demand more accountability, more responsibility, because what we forgot is that the people created the states, and the states created the government. It is not the other way around. All right? We are still the power. We are still the ones generating and creating the reality we live in, whatever it is that we choose to do. That's who we are. We're the ones that have to go and move in this direction. Now, as everything shifts, there's going to be a void of power, a vacuum. Ladies and gentlemen, we the people on this planet have to fill that void, that vacuum. not an NGO, not another governmental agency. No, this has to be grassroots, local. We have to take the power back. They had their run for 150 to almost 200 years, and they trashed the place, and then their solution to trashing it was, one, not to take responsibility, but to implement a plan to take out 90% of the world's population. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable anywhere in the galaxy, okay? So, fortunately, they're getting their ass kicked now, and the whippings are still coming. There's still a couple cans of ass whip that have to be opened. And they're going to be open. They're definitely going to be open. And of course, the big one will be the financial system change of collapsing the old central bank system, the fiat currency system, which is run by the Rothschild Central Bank. That all has to come down because that's what's really had a hold on everything, the whole planet, actually. And I don't know if a lot of you know this, but the money that you have in your pocket isn't U.S. currency. It belongs to a private bank. We're renting it at anywhere from 2 to 6% per bill. Okay, and it's been that way since 1913. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's going to blow your minds. But the news is really good. The change is here. You just have to, I don't know how you stay informed but not listen to any media. That's a real trick. Unless you listen to the media and whatever they say, you just reverse. That's the only way I know you can do this, right? Because that's actually what the truth is whatever they say, you literally reverse it, and that's what's happening. There's nothing to see here. There's everything to see here. Everything's fine. No, nothing's fine. Biden's doing a great job. Oh my God, are you kidding? And I'm just using that as a reference. Some people think he is. Okay, fine. But the point is you want to reverse whatever they're telling you because it's all programming. It's all been programming. So let's see. So I know we want to do some questions, and I like the Q&As because I tend to shine there because I have no idea what you want to talk about. So that takes a lot of pressure off of me. And I don't do many of these. This is my last public speaking here in the West. Look, I never wanted to do this. I never did. I mean, I just, I'm a Cancer. I like to be home. I like to be chill, hanging with the kids, disciplining the children, doing all those things. Fixing cars. Those are the things that I love, and traveling, etc. Animals. So, I had no clue it was going to be 31 years. Absolutely no clue. And when somebody brought that to mention a couple of years back, I hadn't even thought about it. I honestly just, we just, every day is the beginning of a new life. And if those of you who have children, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to literally start over with them most of the time. It's like Groundhog Day. You keep repeating it over and over and over again. So it's been an interesting journey. I've met a lot of amazing people, and most of those amazing people that I've met that are Terrans are you. The A's, I've said it pretty much everything I could say in the last 30 years, and it's all somewhere digitally. And I'm glad that I've been able to make a contribution, and I've helped at least cause people to ask questions, to look at things differently, and to look at the idea that what you're going to find out and what you're going to realize, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are part of a much larger family. And it doesn't matter the color of their skin, it doesn't matter the size of their starships, it doesn't matter their... That came out all wrong. Oh my God. See, that's why I like to do these, you know? Because I can't edit it out. I can't take it back. Oh, shit.
I have a question.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is they're not all that different. We all have commonalities. Where we're different is how we see ourselves. And a lot of that is programming. A lot of that is programming. A lot of that has been indoctrination. But a lot of it has also been disempowerment. The system, our families have disempowered us. Schools have disempowered us. Society, and then of course the worst culprit is ourselves. Not believing in ourselves, not believing we have the power to change our own life. The power, the being afraid to be courageous and take a stand or to take a step to do what it is that you really want to do. You know, after you've figured it out, what it is you really want to do, which of course is a real task and challenge in itself. Guys, we're awesome. You know, we are absolutely awesome, and if we were not, half the galaxy would not be here. And they are here. They're everywhere. It's stunning what's going on off-world, and there will be other people here and over the weekend to share the information they have. And the important thing is this. You're going to get a lot of different information. You're going to hear a lot of different things. Pay attention to what you resonate to. All right? That's the important thing. Because there may be pieces of information from others, myself, that you're like, well, you know, I don't really want to hear that. I get that. You know, I have 5 kids. I get information every day I don't want to hear. Okay? I get it. I totally do. You know, but what you resonate to, you invest in. You know, you do the work, because the mind lies, the body does not. Remember that. The body doesn't lie. It doesn't know how to. So, let's do questions.
Oh, good. We have some questions.
Hello, and can you hear me? Okay. I think many of us have spent the last 2 years watching podcasts and learning and feeling like we're deep diving and getting information and misinformation and trying to find the truth. And the thing that repeats many times is that the timelines of things happening, and we see that astrologically there's certain times that things are going to unravel, and we all are aware that every structure has to break down in order to create a new and healthier, better structure, everything from school and government and financial systems and medical systems. But that moment of chaos, of breakdown and bringing into the new structures, are there systems already in place that are preparing these new structures and these new systems? And is there some way that we can prepare for these upcoming systems that are in the back wing waiting for these other systems to break down? Did that make sense?
Roughly, mostly. Mostly.
As an example, our school system or our financial system or our government system.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much corruption that's going on. We're all very much aware of those. And we know that where we are today is not sustainable. And we can't thrive under these situations. but there has to be some education or some agency or not, agency is not the right word, but some overall support for our health or our finances or our families or any of those kind of things. That we can't go into complete and utter chaos and break down without having something to rise up.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you. That's okay. So do I. Yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah, a lot of systems. There's been a preparation ever since Kennedy was assassinated for this time period. But now, will it be the end of this year? Will it be 2023? I think it's going to be between now and sometime between the end of 2023. All these shifts and all these changes are going to happen. And along with it, what's going to be occurring is that as the systems collapse, a new system, something that benefits, that was created for the benefit of all of humanity, is already in place. Now you have to understand, and I need you to understand this, there is only one timeline. Just one. I know there's people out there talking about all these other timelines. It isn't true. There's one. Okay? That's why everybody in the cabal, the Satanists, all of it, this is why they're shitting a brick, because they can't jump out of here. They can't run anywhere. This is it. They're done. They're trapped. They're caught. There is one timeline, and we're all on it. So this is it. You don't need to focus on any of that other stuff. It isn't real any longer. All right? The Alliance, all these benevolent space star people, they would not come in and put all their resources on 3 different timelines and roll the dice. That is not how they operate. Okay? They know exactly what they want to do and how it has to be done because they've done this before. Everything is now on one timeline, and this is where everything is going to go down. That's why you're seeing everything. This is why you're seeing the panic, the freakouts, all right? Because they have nowhere to go. They're trapped. It's done. It's over. All we have to do now is play it out and the cleanup. And the cleanup's already begun. If you've been watching the dominoes happen here for the last 2 weeks, it's going to get even more exciting. It really is. Now, there is all this technology that is in black projects. Healing technology, energy technology, all of this stuff. All of this technology had been stuck in something called Space Force. It was not official, it was off the books. And it's been off the books for 50 plus years. All right? I mean, at Roswell, yes, the ship crashed. You know, do you know that half the technology in CERN was taken out of that ship in Roswell? They're actually using some of that tech in CERN. Oh yeah, there's a lot going on here, folks. So I want you to know that the reason Space Force was created and made legal is that when they flipped the currency system, those programs no longer have any funding. He probably needs to go out. Sorry. Hold on. This was his first road trip. And the first day was a disaster. I really, I really thought about my decision to bring him, but I had to. I think it was the projectile vomiting on my dashboard that was the low point. But anyway, he's sort of coming around, but so there are programs in place. There are things that are there. The new monetary system is in place. The quantum financial system is already in place. All the banks are on it already. The only ones that aren't, that are aligning to it, are the credit unions. They're lining themselves up to it. But all the major banks around the world are already on it. I bank with Wells Fargo. They have told, I've asked her, she goes, well, we're doing some training. And I said, is this the quantum system? She goes, you know about that? Yeah, like 5 years. you know, you know. So, but I mean, it's out there. It's people are starting to figure it out. So that's in place. It's just taking it down in just a certain way that there's no vacuum for someone to come in and screw with, whether it's human or extraterrestrial. So that has to change, and when that does, when the currency system changes and we're off the private banking system, we go to a citizens-owned treasury or a state-owned bank where you borrow money interest-free or for 1%. Okay, it doesn't bankrupt you. And it's asset-backed. For those of you who know about the retrieval of all the gold that was taken out of Rome underneath the church, that was retrieved from Switzerland, Brussels, the Bush Ranch down in Paraguay, all that gold is not in Fort Knox. All that gold is in Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado. Okay? Yeah, that's the new treasury, Cheyenne Mountain. So nobody can mess with it. And when it's time, it'll be moved to wherever the new capital is going to be. It will not be Washington, D.C., though. Okay? It will not be D.C. So I'm not sure where it's going to be. Denver was set up to be the second capital, but there is some mental illness in our government there, so I don't know if that's going to still hold up. So we'll have to see, but everything's in place. And in fact, the coin and the paper currency has already been printed. It was printed years ago, in fact. So they're ready to do it. It's just a way to do it. And they have to take things down in steps and stages. The medical community. It was extremely important for everyone to see who and what the system really is. Okay? And all you have to do is ask a doctor, is there one single pharmaceutical drug that cures anything? And the answer is no, not one. Okay, not one. Natural nutrition, natural healing, alternative methods, they have a history of curing diseases, and they have for 7,000 years. So, naturopath is going to be the new way. Also, color, light, and sound. And I talked about that 30 years ago, and now there's all kinds of talk about, they call them med beds or healing tables. There's all kinds of things that are coming out. There's all this technology, and I want you to understand that color, light, and sound, healing your body. What does that say about who you really are? Your color, light, and sound. Your energy. You're a holograph. Okay? You're a holograph. Inhabiting a three-dimensional space. Just sit with that for a little while. Okay? So, okay, one more point. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Energy. If you can, research the Chicago World's Fair of, was it 1903? That whole thing was lit up, and you can do the research, you can see the pictures of the buildings and everything else. That entire area was lit up. The contract to do the electrical work was given to Nikola Tesla. There wasn't a single wire anywhere. The system he built in Colorado Springs, using the Earth's resonant field with an antenna sending electricity wirelessly, is what exactly he did there. So it's real, it exists. I don't even know if you know this, but for the first 15 years of the 20th century, we had electric cars, okay? And on a single charge, they got over 1,000 miles with the old lead batteries. And it was the automobile companies and the petroleum companies, aka John Rockefeller, who made sure all of that was dismantled. So when we get all excited about our electric cars, that's great. They're beautiful. They got all the bells and whistles. But we've actually taken steps back. Okay? We've taken steps back. What we need to do is, one, petition Congress to change the formulation for fuel injection from 17% to something like 21 or 22. And every car in here will get 20 to 25 or 30, 40 miles per hour per gallon. It'll just happen. The other is Teslas. If you had 4 motors on the car and you had a switch inside, and I have a friend of mine who's doing this, he charged the car once, and every time it runs it, it's powering itself, because he has 4 generators flipping back and forth, powering the batteries up. So he never has to recharge the car. Okay? And somebody's coming out with a solar car as well, that's supposed to get 700 miles. It's very expensive. It's like $250,000 to start. But if it works, the price will come down. Sir?
Yeah, you started out by talking about the White House, but I don't remember exactly how you worded it. Would you repeat that?
The what? The White House?
You're talking about the White House and things happening in the White House.
I said white hats.
Oh, the white hats. Okay, in terms of what?
Are you watching current events?
Yeah,
Okay. The rulings at the Supreme Court,
okay.
the arrests, the changing of the financial system, the new banking laws, all the things that are happening, what they're doing is they're slowly but surely dismantling the criminal banking syndicate that we have all been subjected to.
Yeah, but the missing ingredient is that nobody goes to jail. No one's indicted, no one goes to jail, no one's had their head cut off for treason.
Not yet.
It's about
You're right.
time.
You're right, not yet.
Yeah.
Now there's rumors, but to me that's all they are.
That's
I haven't seen any actual proof.
Right.
But, let's just take Joe Biden, for example. Not to pick on Joe Biden.
But to pick on Joe Biden.
Okay, but if we go back and we do so, and you pay attention, there have been at least 3 different versions of Joe Biden. One had blue eyes, which is what he actually did. One had brown eyes. One was right-handed. The other one was left-handed. Okay? Now, I've seen people with dementia, but I've never seen anybody just flip like that. Okay? I mean, that's a very special case, So, Maxine Waters, she's appeared behind Nancy Pelosi, who keeps getting younger every time she's on TV. And she was clearly wearing a mask, and they made sure that it was visible. So there's. I think what they're doing is they're showing us, but at the same time, it's an IQ test. I mean, it has to be, because it's so blatant, and yet a lot of people they don't catch it, or they catch it and they don't want to say anything because they don't want people to think they're crazy, and I get that. I mean, I was there for years. But I do. I think it's like an IQ test. How awake can we make these people? So, do you have another question?
Yeah, you had talked about the quantum banking system, but still none of that is constitutional. Congress only has power to coin money at Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5. And Congress has never, ever had power to print money, not ever to this day. So.
Okay, are we done with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Since when did Congress ever do anything they were supposed to do?
In the beginning.
Well, what do I mean?
No, in the beginning.
During George W. Bush's reign, the new currency was printed. It was supposed to be released earlier, and that was scrubbed, and the Treasury has printed money that states the United States Treasury. There is no Federal Reserve on it whatsoever. It hasn't been issued yet because Congress has not passed the law backing the money by gold. I believe it's HR 520A, which was introduced in 2018 by Trump, the Trump administration, to put asset-backed assets, gold and silver, to back the new currency. Now, had they done that, you would be living in a different world today. That's why we don't see the currency yet. But this is why they're taking everything down. Now, when they take down the dollar, which is inevitable, there will be no choice but to go to the new currency. For example, what is the actual national debt of the United States of America? It's $265 trillion. Do you know what the fire sale of the entire United States is? Everything in it? $193 trillion. This is why nobody wants the dollar, because they know overseas, they know they're already moving to an asset-backed system. Switzerland's always been on one. Okay? England was on one for the longest period of time. They took it off when they joined the EU. They're no longer part of the EU. They're going back to the sterling silver standard. Okay? Russia is gold back. China's going gold back. Brazil's going gold back. India is going gold back. Vietnamese dong is going asset backed using oil. Iraq is going to be asset backed with gold and oil. So they're all in the process. The issue, sir, is that most people in this room have no idea what's going on because you have to look for it. The media in this country is crap. That's why we don't know. But these things are going on all over the world. In fact, Germany just announced that they're going to be joining BRICS. That's the end of the EU. The whole thing comes down because Germany's the one who's been supporting it and keeping it afloat.
Well, money is defined and it was this silver dollars are money, and nothing else constitutionally is silver money. I mean, nothing else is money unless it's silver dollars.
Well, then what would you call the Federal Reserve note that you have in your pocket and that you can go home and spend tonight?
That's a Title 12 section.
What would you call that?
It's Title 12 section 24.
I know what the law says, but then why are you spending the money you have if it isn't real?
It's not. It's evidence of debt only. I had a conversation with.
That's why it has to go.
I had a conversation with from Cambridge University professor, and we talked about this, and I said it's Title 12, Section 24, under 7th, says banks shall have power to negotiate promissory notes, bills of exchange, drafts, and in quote parentheses I put checks, credit cards, debit cards, end brackets, and it reads, and other evidences of debt makes all of it evidence of debt. There is no money, no constitutional money, period.
I know that. I know that. That's why the Federal Reserve is illegal. You're preaching to the choir here.
Okay.
You're totally preaching to the choir.
Okay.
That's why the Federal Reserve is illegal.
Yeah, have you heard of the Club of Rome?
Of course. Everybody has.
The Club of Rome.
Hi.
Thank you for all your wonderful work you're doing for us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you, first of all, I was a big
You need to, don't be shy.
fan of the Mandela effect.
Who?
Because the Mandela effect, because I've seen
Okay,
so many changes
okay.
going on, and now you're telling us there's one timeline. Has that all been a lie?
No,
Like changing
no.
the Queen's one?
The Mandela effect became about because of the merging of the different timelines. That's what caused the Mandela effect. Whichever vibration was higher in the merging of events, that would take precedence. So, that's exactly what that was. It was the merging of the timelines, which is why history would be altered. Now, many of us remember one thing growing up, and then all of a sudden we go to the papers, the newspapers, and it says something completely different.
Yes.
And some people remember it differently. That was because of the merging of the different timelines. At one time, we had 5 timelines.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And the mergings began in 2012. That's when it began, and the last merger happened sometime last year, permanently.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that's what caused the Mandela effect.
Okay, good. Then it was real then.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're all not crazy.
Well, I thought it was correct. I thought it was real.
We're not all
Okay.
crazy.
Good. So how does that affect CERN right now? You know, we've heard that now CERN is online, and is that all a lie too, or what's going on? And do we have control of it now?
Yes, yes. The good guys have control of CERN.
Wonderful.
They've had it for some time, actually. Um, you know, what's actually happening there, I would have to be on site to know, and I'm not, obviously. I just see those kind of things as a distraction. Look this way while the real things are happening over here. I wouldn't worry about CERN.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it at all. We're on a very specific timeline, and that is the salvation and freedom of humanity.
Wonderful.
That's where we are.
Beautiful. I'll just cut to one more, because I'm a big anti-geoengineering as well. And I've noticed we have two suns up there. And we have an artificial sun pattern. Okay, so I was curious, have they been radiating us with this artificial pattern?
No.
But I do see two suns, and I've showed a lot of other people that.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so
Yes, you
explain
do.
that.
Have you heard of fourth density?
It's what?
Have you heard of fourth density?
Yes,
Have you heard about the ascension into a fourth density?
yes,
There's your answer.
because I'm the
What you're
fourth.
seeing is another frequency. We are merging. We are rising into something completely different.
Okay,
And
two suns.
in fourth density, our solar system has two suns.
Yes, all
Yes.
right. So it's real then.
Oh, yes,
Cool.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're not crazy.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
You sparked this question when you mentioned about Biden, 3 versions. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with Dr. Peter Better.
Dr. Peter Beater?
Beter, yes.
Yes, I am, who ran the Import-Export Bank for John Kennedy.
And also, what you may have heard, I'm guessing, is he talked about organic robotoids, and that Carter went over to Russia and they robotoided him. And do you think that, do you believe that? I mean, is that?
I don't know about Jimmy Carter. That's a tough one. I know about that.
Do you believe in the organic robotoid theory? Let's call it a theory since I don't have any evidence.
Yeah. Let me,
Take your time with that. It seems to me like if it's true that it was like the beginning phase of cloning, maybe now it's more advanced. And
well,
now we just
actually, the
call it
cloning started in the 50s.
Okay.
And it started almost immediately after the Greys and the Orion Group made an agreement with some of the governments on the planet. An agreement that literally trapped us even more than we were before. I want you to look at this idea that the human cloning program initially was set up to take people's DNA, make copies of ourselves, and then sell them off-world and slave trade them off-world for technology and natural resources. That's what it was. Peter had some of it right, but he probably would have had the rest of it if they hadn't have blown his head off. You know,
Oh, they
took
did.
taken
I
him
didn't
out.
know that. They put
Yeah, they found him with his head blown off in a parking lot in Dallas,
Oh, wow.
in a parking garage. And that's what happens, you know, when you go too deep with these idiots.
Yeah.
They just do their thing. That's all they know to do.
Okay, thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome. So the cloning program has been very, very dark. It's been really, it's just been dark. It's been really, really dark.
Is Deep State still using it?
No, we're done. We're done. Which is why everybody's wearing a mask now. Because they can't make clones. Okay. That's good information right there. Yep. Hi.
Hi. So contact-wise, what is like the coolest or most profound experience you've had?
That I've had?
Yeah, like contact-wise. Like what's the coolest or most amazing experience you've had? Out of all of them.
Out of all of them. I would have to say spending 90 91 days on a starship. That would be it. Being around them, living with them. I will tell you that the women of the Andromedan ship were concerned about me because they didn't understand why I had to sleep so much. and one of their days would be the equivalent of 33 days for us, you know, and not even seals can stay awake that long. And it was that. It was also having the ability to share our music with them. I've given them a lot of CDs and DVDs, even some cassettes. Now I like, you know, pop, but I really like smooth jazz. And I've given them some smooth jazz. And what they do is they take these things and they put them in their archives, like a museum. And every starship has one based on where they go and the adventures that they're on. And they take things that are gifts and they put them, you know, in this museum so that the kids, the crew, can listen to these things. Watching the kids listen to jazz is amazing. They don't have the ability to create music the way we do. What they do is they go and they record the sounds of everything. And then what they do is they mix it. Okay, but it's all the universe, all the galaxy. They don't pull things out of thin air. They're amazed at what it is that how we can do that. Now, they're not interested at all in listening to music that has words. They only want instrumentation, and the reason for that is because they can tell a lot about the soul that wrote the music by the vibration of the music itself. That's what they want to hear. So that's been really, really awesome. The other part that was really, really interesting was that for the first 40 or so days, I could not see a lot of things. My mind did not know fifth density. It had no idea how to see it. So the things that were similar to what we have here on Earth, I would see they'd somehow be blurry, but after a while they became more and more prominent. There were other things that were just like invisible. They weren't there, I didn't see them. And it was during this period that Morane would walk with me no matter where I went. And he would take me by the arm, one or the other, and he would steer me away from stuff. It wasn't until virtually the very end where my mind was able to comprehend what it was I was looking at. And all the places where he was steering me is where they had like water, a bridge, things I would have walked right off of because I didn't know they were there. My mind couldn't see it. I had no comprehension. Colors, animals that they had. There were things I couldn't see because my mind simply couldn't comprehend it. That's awesome stuff, you know. And I'll share this with you. And I shared this with a couple folks here yesterday, last night. When you leave the Earth's atmosphere, everything falls away. All the stress, all the anger, all the hatred, just all of it. It just goes away. I can't explain it. It's just not in you. And what you realize is that at some point, you're fully aware that this is who you truly are. You feel your own presence. You feel your own frequency. You hear your own frequency. And everybody needs to have that moment because you're changed forever. And then when you come back in here, of course, the world is what it is. All that stuff comes back, but you never forget what your frequency was. And you, if you work at it, you can always go back to it and hold it and try to expand yourself with it. It's tough down here because you have everything working against you, or it was working against you. I think that has to be the most profound circumstance. I've had some really embarrassing moments. I begged Mornay to allow me to eat one of their fruitarians. And when they travel, they take the fruit, and they dry it, and they're in these little wafers. I asked to try it. I insisted. I begged. I groveled. Okay? I groveled. And he's like, okay. So he breaks it off, breaks it in half, breaks it again, breaks it one more time, and he hands it to me, this little tiny piece. And I'm like, you chintzy, what's up with that? You know, and he goes, just, you know. And I ate it, and it kind of tasted like hay. You know, I didn't taste any fruit. You know, it wasn't sweet. And I mean, it wasn't long, and my stomach's like upside down. I'm like, oh my God. And I threw up. I threw up all over his ship. You know, and he just looks at me, and he goes, too much oxygen. I'm like, oh, thanks. You know, I could have used that information up front. And then this little robot comes out, and he starts to clean it up, and he's like, come on, let's go. So it moves me out of there. But the most embarrassing one is when I'm on board the ship. I have to wear a suit. It's a biosuit. It's energetic. And what it does is it holds my field together as if I'm still in third density. Now, I am able to take things, but the protocol is you move very slowly, and there's a merging of the two fields, and I take whatever's being offered to me, and I pull it into my field slowly. You learn this really quick. So I did that, and I had a surprise contact. I didn't know it was coming, and that night I had Mexican food. Okay, well, you know what happens when you eat beans. Okay? That's right. That's right. I passed gas, and it bounced all over my field. And I had nowhere to go. I couldn't turn it off because I would disintegrate. Okay? They were mortified. And I thought for sure I was going to get fired. You know, I'm like, we're done with you, Collier. You know, that's probably my lowest point. You know, that was definitely my lowest point. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm no ambassador. You know, I mean, but, you know, we kept it real. We definitely kept it real. At least I did. Another question? Let's
Yes.
get away from that.
Okay, I'll just change topic a little bit. Yeah, so I have just a two-part. One's more of a request, but like you said earlier when you started, that the new generations are going to have to be that bridge or kind of pick up where you left off. And I wanted to say that my grandfather, I found old documents of actually him going to your lectures, however many years that was ago.
Wow.
So this is a generational thing, so I'm trying to do a legacy of what he was trying to do and continue. Thank you, and I'm just honored that I got to catch one of your last lectures. And if you could please sign his book before at some point.
I would
that
be honored, sir.
I really appreciate that. And then just really quick, regarding the Andromedans, I wanted to ask too, what maybe, since you've talked about all of that for many years, but what would be the most profound thing, or the one thing that you still think would be the best message to leave for everyone? And maybe if that ties in with the secret space program and that conference you're going to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked to a lot of contactees, some who are already out and some who want to come out. And they're like, Collier, you got to, you know, give me the skinny. What's the ropes? How do I do this? You know, how do I avoid getting into trouble? And I'm like, well, there really is no way to avoid getting into some trouble with this. You know, you're going to ruffle feathers anytime you challenge belief systems. This is just what happens. But you know, what you have to do is you have to stand in your truth, no matter what. Just stand in your truth. And this is the message that I'm giving them. There's a lot of people who are still enamored with the ship. Okay? The ship. This is not about the ships. Okay? This is about you. They're not here to show you the ships. They're here to assist spiritual growth. That's the only way we do this. Okay? And that's the message. For those who are enamored with the ship and that's all they see, be respectful, but focus on those who don't care about the ship because they're already on the inner journey. And that's where you change the world, is the inner journey. How you see yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you project yourself out into the world. That's it. That's where we're the power. That's where we make the biggest change. Okay? So, I don't know where he went. Most profound thing is still the love that you withhold is the pain that you carry lifetime after lifetime. There's not a day that goes by I don't think about that. And I remind myself of that. Because it's so easy to withhold love. It's so easy. We've all done it. We all still do it, even though we know better. There are just those moments. And let's face it, we're all a work in progress. Every single one of us. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, not to digress much, but I had a question on the cloning. If they can clone from DNA, can they clone bodies that actually can reproduce again, or are they just like one-off clones and they live a few years? Wondering if the DNA, being able to reproduce from DNA might get us over a bridge if they're creating like whole humans with eggs and sperm, the whole thing that can carry on without using cloning. But initially, you know that if it could cover that.
The first original clones would only live in approximately 2 weeks. Then they were able to go to 4 months. Now they have them that can live approximately 3 or 4 years before they have to be replaced. I am not aware of any of them that can actually reproduce. They have to be managed. All right? A organic microprocessor is grown in their head, and that's where the memories are moved from being digital into the mind. Basically what they do is they create an avatar. Bill Gates has talked about this. He's even bragged about the ability that Microsoft has to do this. That whole program is a nightmare to deal with. Because there's so much we still don't know. And honestly, what we do know is really, really dark. Really, really dark. What they've always wanted to do was to be able to transfer a soul from one body into a clone. It doesn't take. It just doesn't take.
Well, Rob Potter was talking about that this morning, that the Venetians do that. The Venetians do that, when they can transfer their consciousness into a clone, and I'm assuming that clone's living for a long time from what we were talking about.
Well, this is the very first I've heard of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, very first I've heard of it.
Oh, all right, I don't, I'm just,
And
yeah,
so I don't have the answer to that. This is new information for me that
yeah,
they're doing this.
I'm just concerned about the whole.
Rob Harder and I don't really talk that much.
Yeah, no, I'm concerned about the whole.
Okay,
situation,
that whole agenda was literally to stop us from reproducing, because they had an agenda to eliminate a majority of the population. That is their goal. That was their stated goal.
Something 1.5 billion reproducing females affected of that age, young age, reproduce, that's a big deal.
That's still huge.
Yes, it is.
That's still huge.
Yes, it is.
I want to point something out to you. And this was true back in 1978 when the Vatican was against population control, was against it. They did a study showing that you could take everyone in the world at that particular time, which was 6.5 billion people, and put them in the state of Texas on 1 acre of land. Okay? There would be nobody anywhere else. So the myth that we're overpopulated simply isn't true. The issue is using our resources, and the issue is pollution. That is not entirely all on us. They blame us, okay, because we're easy scapegoats, because we're all, we'll succumb, we'll give up our rights, we'll do all this stuff, because we have been molded to be followers, not the leaders we truly are. The earth herself can easily, if we were managing all of our resources, if we had free technology, using the Earth's resonance system, okay, if we had all those things in place, the planet could hold a population of 23 billion people comfortably. Okay? Comfortably. They wanted to get rid of us, end of story, period, and begin their own thing. And the reason for the climate change to eliminate the carbon was primarily to bring another race in here to live. So, but we had to be out of the way. Okay, that's the really true dark agenda. And that wasn't so much humans that thought that up. That was a very, very bad deal that came about in the 50s. That we walked into not knowing what the hell we were doing. We simply didn't know. And now I'm really going to get into trouble here. The Shroud of Turin is real, if you don't know what that is. However, it is not associated to any known historical figure. You understand? It is not connected to any known historical figure, but it is real. It was manufactured. Now, ask yourself, if you don't know anything about this, research the blood type of the man on the cloth. There is no male chromosome. None. Clone, clone, clone. All right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they have all the tech. They can do virtually anything. You know, and if we don't know, they can sell us anything. Okay? Listen. And I've been saying this forever, and I'm going to keep saying it until I'm not here. They are not gods. They should never be treated like them. They should never be worshiped like them. They make mistakes. They have wives who give them shit just like ours do. Okay? They have stuff that they're all dealing with. Yes, they're more harmonious. Yes, they've learned a lot because of what is called the law of consistency. Everything that they do for their civilization is to evolve the civilization to a higher, much better level. That is not what we do here. We've almost never done that. It's been survival of every generation, generation after generation. And whatever problems the previous generation didn't fix gets dumped on the new generation. And then the generation, before it blames the one after it. It's just this cycle, okay? So the mindset that humanity has to have in order to change this is one that we have got to not only look at ourselves, but realize that we are all related to each other. Every single one of us. In protecting each other, will we remain free? That's how it works. If we protect each other and defend each other, all of us will remain free. When we don't, someone falls, and then it's a domino effect. Okay? That's just how it works, because we're all related. We're all connected to each other, just as we're connected to nature. It's a symbiotic relationship. Star Wars is right. It's a symbiotic relationship. And speaking of that, the whole Jedi technology, that's Toltec. That's the indigenous Toltec spirituality. Okay, Lucas took all that and made a Jedi religion out of it. But it's real. And nonetheless, it's still real. I don't have a lightsaber. I don't know anyone who does. Okay, but the spirituality part is genuine. The indigenous people have been doing this forever. They know. They tried to teach us, but we wouldn't listen. Because our focus, instead of being within, has been focused without. It's all the physical realm, not the spiritual realm. We only go there when we have our dark nights of the soul, when everything on the outside completely falls apart, then we go within. You know, it's like we have to be forced to do it. Another question?
Please talk about your first experiences, how young you were and what first experiences you had UFO-wise.
I was in the Upper Peninsula at a family picnic with the rest of my family,
How
cousins. It was something we used to do.
How old?
I was 8 years old. And it was near, we were all picnicking in an area. My grandparents had a cabin at a place called Crooked Lake, which is in the far Upper Peninsula. And we used to go up there towards the end of the summer for the big family thing before everybody went back to school, because then we wouldn't see each other till the holidays. And it was a really, really good time. Really, really good time. A lot of wild animals. We would all, in the cars, go to the junkyard and watch the bears come out with the cubs and go through all the garbage. Now, if you're a kid, that's cool stuff, right? And we were kids, and it was cool stuff. And of course, there's elk and there's moose. My uncle Augie had his Cadillac Eldorado completely destroyed by a moose. He actually hit it, and it was knocked out. By the time the state police officer got there, the moose had woken up and was walking around the car, breaking every window, putting huge dents in every quarter panel, you know, just boom, boom, just destroyed the car. He was so pissed. And then he just walked off into the forest. You know, I mean, that's just cool stuff if you're a kid, you know. That's like watching Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom, right? If some of you are the older vintage, you know what I'm talking about. So, you know, we would go up there for that. We went out into an area to play hide and go seek, very tall grass. And I found a good spot underneath a chestnut tree. And I remember moving the chestnuts, and I laid down, and I just kind of dozed off. And when I woke up, it was dark, and there was nobody around. So I made my way back to the cabin, my grandfather's cabin, where there were state police and my mother, who was frantic, wondering what happened. So, you know, being young and naive, I told her about my experience, and I'll tell you that in a second. It didn't go well for me. Didn't go well for me at all. You know, and the state police officer, after hearing it, says, well, ma'am, you know, good luck, we're leaving. Anyway, I found myself on board, I found myself on a table, and there were two men next to me. One very short, roughly 4'8", 4'9", looking very Asian, very pale skin. He introduced himself as Visayas. Now, that's not their real names. They don't use names. They use tones and symbols. And the symbols that they use for their name and for ideas, what they do is they spin it. And contained inside that spin is information. It creates a holograph of everything that you want to know. It's not tech we have here. But they know we use labels. So I had to have a name, and they gave me Visayas. The taller one, 7'5", 7'4", 7'5", 450 pounds, that's Mornay. And Mornay is like my brother, my best friend, and he's still around. Visayas crossed over in September of '98. He left their physicality. It's interesting, he left the same time my dad did. So, I'm on this table, and I'm in this room, and I knew them. There was absolutely no fear, and I knew them. I didn't exactly know how, but they were totally familiar to me. And then they put on this device. This was like a little metal cap, like a yarmulke, except it had a circle in the middle. They put it on my head like this, and they just said, look. And out of the walls, magically came all these monitors. And each monitor was showing me like a film clip of a lifetime. And I knew what I was looking at. I absolutely knew. And I could see these different ones. Some of them were on-world, some of them were off-world. And I knew each one was a representative to me, because as I looked at each one, I had an emotional reaction to each one. And there was one in particular where I was a Templar Knight a long time ago here on Earth that I had a huge emotional charge to, and I started to cry. And so they took this thing off, the monitors went back, and they introduced themselves. They told me what was going to happen. At that particular time, they said, look, a lot of things are going to change in your life, which is why we came now. Now, they're from the future. So they came back in time to see me. They said a lot of things are going to happen, you know, in the future, in the immediate future, you're going to be okay. Don't worry, you're going to see us again. And less than a month later, my mother was killed by a drunk driver, and my baby sister. So, of course, everything changed. You know, life changed. I didn't see them again until I was 16. And that was great. Now, that was an interesting story. Was in high school, lived in Pound Ridge, New York. My high school was John F. Kennedy High School in Somers, New York. So I had to drive. It was a parochial high school. Because my dad was a devout Catholic, and that's just how it was going to go. You know? So, very old school. So, I had a habit of doing homework and reading the assignments and then falling asleep. And my dad knew this. Now, my dad would get up in the middle of the night because he was a late snacker, you know. So he opened up my door, and there I was, floating above my bed, dropping down onto the bed, and I was already asleep. There was a light, a blue light, in my room, and it was going through everything on my bookcase, you know, and he said he watched it. And he had the door open this much, he said. And then it looked at him. I go, what do you mean, Dad? He goes, it looked right at me. I go, what'd you do? He goes, I backed away and I closed your door. Now, my dad was a really brave guy. He was very chivalrous, wouldn't take shit from anybody. But he was way over his head on this one. And he knew so. So, when I got up in the morning, took a shower, went downstairs about 6:30, because I had a 45-minute drive to school, he was at the kitchen table. And I said, hey, Dad, you're up early. He goes, Sport, have a seat. And whenever sport comes up, I'm like, oh, God, what did we do, right? So I sat down, and he tells me what happened. And he goes, what's going on? So I had no other reason to not do this. I told him everything. Even Mom, what happened with Mom. And he took it all in. He only asked a couple of questions. Do they hurt you? No. Are they here to take over? No, that's the last thing they want to do is babysit us. And his last question was, is there a God? And I said, yes, there is. And you could just see relief come over him, because he was always a devout Catholic, you know, worshiped the Sacred Heart, the whole 9 yards. And that's just who he was. He was a good man. And so I told him everything. Everything. We never talked about it again. When he was dying, I went to Florida to see him and to spend some time with him. And at one point I went outside. They lived in Boca Raton at the time. And when I went outside, I needed some space. You know, I just needed to think and process, because, you know, here's my dad. He's crossing over, and there's nothing I can do. So I went outside, and there was a sighting. The ship almost looked like that which you see at Gulf Breeze. And it was very large, and it was in the newspaper, and it was on television. You know, people see this such and such in Florida. And I remember standing there, and Arlene, his wife, my stepmother at the time, came out, and she looked up at it, and she goes, are they your friends? Did they follow you here? And I looked at her and I said, I didn't think you know. She goes, oh, your father tells me everything. So, it's out there, you know, it's out there. I remember when my dad was terrified about the idea of me going out into the public and speaking, because he was worried about the government, you know. In fact, there was a moment in my life where I thought, you know, maybe I'd become a priest. And he goes, no, that's not going to happen. I go, what are you talking about? And he gave me an old paperback, It was, and the name of the paperback was The Vatican Empire. And it was all about the business dealings of the Vatican. And that changed my perspective really quick. So my dad knew shit, you know, he knew stuff. It's just, you know, he never sat us down and said, okay guys, here it is. You know, he took the approach, when the opportunity presents itself, I will, but if it doesn't, you're on your own to figure it out. And, you know, thanks to the internet, we don't have to worry about that anymore because it's, all that stuff's everywhere. You know, all you do is put in a key phrase and boom, 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 pages of stuff come up. So it's been a journey, you know, it's been absolutely remarkable. And I say this in all candor, and I say this with all humility, there is no way I'd do this again. No way. We have one more last question, or two, I guess?
Yeah.
Say.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is about disclosure, full disclosure of extraterrestrials, the benevolent aliens. Because of all the fear-mongering that has been done over the years, and also recently, is there a plan in place by the white hats and our benevolent extraterrestrial friends for handling the fears of people who will have difficulty in accepting, and will there perhaps be teachers who will come from the ET races to work with human teachers to help people understand that there's nothing to fear and there's everything to gain? So is there a plan in place to deal with the full disclosure?
Okay, that's a very good question. There has to be. There absolutely has to be. Now, the Alliance, and when I refer to Alliance, I mean off-world beings. They have done this before in other places, so this is not their first rodeo. It's our first rodeo, okay? You can't give the good without giving the bad. You have to give history, true history of who we are, that's good, the bad, and the ugly. You have to lay it all out. Now, how they're going to present it, I do not know. Okay, that's way above my pay grade. And actually, I don't even have a pay grade. But nonetheless, it's way over my head. That is something that I'm sure they're working on all the time, and the plan and the way they implement that will be entirely based on the level of our consciousness. If we are at a certain place, they will present it in a certain way. If our consciousness drops for some reason into a more fear space, they may delay it or they may not, but they may present it in a very different way and start out very positive and slowly work in the history, which is not a pretty thing. I simply do not know. But for them to invest all the technology, all the man and women power, to be here to get us to the next level, I'm sure the plan has been very well thought out. In fact, they probably go back and forth in time into the future and say, well, if we do this plan, let's jump 5 years. What does it look like? Let's jump 10 years. What does it look like? Well, that's not so good. So then we'll go back. Okay, let's try another plan. Okay, let's jump 5 years. That looks pretty good. Let's jump 10 years. Hey, that's looking great. Let's do 20 years. Fuck, we're there. They did it. Okay, then that would be the plan, but that's all going to be based on our sorry about the curse words, but that's all part of matching our frequency, being at our level, okay, and at the same time trying to elevate our level, but that has to be a free will choice. You know, they're not going to come in and say, you have to do this. That's not who they are. And I'm telling you, they do not want to babysit us. They have made that perfectly clear. You know, our souls know the difference between right and wrong. Our souls know what we need to do. It's just, we just need to be empowered to do it. That's the big thing here, is to empower humanity. And everything they do would be consistent with the law of consistency, empowering each generation to become more the next generation forward. And that's something we're going to have to learn. You know, there are ideologies, belief systems, prejudices, all these things which aren't real. They're all based in a belief system and how we look at ourselves. Once all those illusions are scattered away from us and we truly understand who we are, we will not hold those judgments, because we will not be holding judgments against ourselves. We will totally understand what's been going down here. And for those of you who are starseed or awake, totally awake, and are having your own experiences, everything's going to come together for you. And you'll realize why you volunteered for this mission. You know, and my suggestion is, no Romulan ale before you sign the contract on the next mission. Just don't do it, okay? Read the fine print, please. Okay, next question.
Yeah, I was looking at this whole situation over there in Eastern Europe, and
Two more? Okay.
it looks like the cabal might want to start a nuclear war. But years ago in the local bagel shop, I read a 8x11 paper that said the Galactic Federation or whatever won't allow it because nuclear war can cause, you know, screw up the fabric of the universe and affect other planets and stuff too. So I wonder if you have any information about, can some of these, you know, people, these...
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen.
Okay.
There's no way they're going to let nukes go off. In fact, every military base has had their nukes, the circuitry to launch, disintegrated. They just do this regularly. They just don't ever talk about it.
Thank you.
You know, yeah, they're just Roman candles that'll never go off.
The other follow-up question is when you were talking about an hour ago about the three things that got stole, the nuclear power got stole, I mean the nuclear devices.
Broken arrows.
Yeah, can they could dismantle that, couldn't they know who the people are?
You know, I don't know what the agreement was on that.
Okay.
And exactly how it worked. But we were warned not to go down that road in the 50s.
Okay.
The Pleiadians told us, the Venetians told us not to go down that road of nuclear power.
Okay.
Now, if you're a parent, how do you drill home this lesson once and for all? You make them as responsible as possible to take care of their own messes.
Right.
My understanding is that those issues have been resolved. There was some alliance help in locating those things, but it was the human element that went in and took care of it, fixed it, rescued it. Now, do not be surprised if one day we wake up and there are no nuclear missiles at all anywhere on our planet. They've just been removed to someplace else, just gone.
And also, when we ask and receive, you know, ask and you shall receive, could a lot of us make our own calls, and these beings, angelic and whatever, help stop things like that anyways, you know, like with the three broken arrows, for instance. Like,
Right, well-
we could call in and say, please, God, help us with this situation, et cetera.
Yeah, well, our prayers have been answered. I mean, you know, we're getting the help. You know, but you have to picture this. You're a family of Pleiadians, and you're sitting down to dinner, and all of a sudden your entire house just leaps up off the ground because someone in New Mexico detonated a nuclear weapon. And then to make matters worse, you create a wormhole that somebody else has to come in and fix. You know, these are the things that we know nothing about. The military knows. But you know, they're not one to admit their mistakes. They're really not. And we all make them. We all do. We just don't know. We don't know what we know until we know it. We don't know what we don't know until we realize we don't know it. Last question.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you, more about the imbalance between where we've been with the divine feminine and the masculine, and how, like, the Native American Indians honored the earth and honored the mother, the family. And when, how we can help our children and empowering the balance again, so that we have more feminine aspects of being valued and important, as opposed to all this masculine, how we've gone so far away. It's like the Native American Indians do that, the Hawaiians do that, so many cultures do that, and we're just way off track. And it's like, you want to help your children, and it's almost like you need to help them at the family level, the core values of honoring the mother, the feminine, as well as the masculine, and we've come out of balance from honoring Mother Earth and the feminine. And I'm really concerned about those kind of things, like our children being able to have children. So it's like, if you can give them information, because most of them are not gonna go out and do powwows like the Native American Indians. They just
I know what
do
you're
it.
saying. I know what you're saying.
It's like, how do you help them the best way you can?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that there's one size or one solution that fits all. You can raise your children to be aware of everything, to be socially conscious, to be observant of nature, to respect nature. You can take them out camping, and you can do all those things. Once they leave home and they begin their own life, they make their own decisions and choices. Some maintain the path and the things that they were taught. Some do not. Because you can't control that. The masculine is completely out of balance, and it's become destructive unto itself. Everybody's aware of that. Which is interesting, because a majority of the contactees that will be coming forward in the next 3 years, they're all women. They're all women. And the idea is to bring in the feminine principle and perspective. And these kids, they're kids to me, they have their shit together. They really, really do. They're brilliant. And they know exactly how to talk. They know what to say and how to present this so everybody will get it. I want to just say that the imbalance of the male frequency was done largely by design to destabilize us as an entire civilization. There was a time we all spoke the same language. There was a time we all stood up and fought for each other. And because of the power we had and the numbers that we continued to grow, it was a decision that was made by a group called the Anunnaki to divide us and to teach us different languages. Now, all the languages that are on this planet, for the record, are extraterrestrial languages. They didn't go home and sit there and say, let's create a language. They taught us different languages they already knew. All right? But they would divide the tribes to separate them, and then they would use us in their political games to war against each other. That's where we learned to fight. It was all learned behavior. And the chickens will come home to roost on them for that. Absolutely. So, the history is going to blow your way, but it's all going to make sense. It all fits with everything that we think we know and that we experience, whether it's in dreams or memories or even pieces of history, Plato's book where he talks about Atlantis, if you have some free time, read that, just the Atlantean part and how he describes what Atlantis is. And then I want you to go online and research the Eye of Africa. Where do you hide something? You hide it in plain sight. Yeah, because we're always looking under this and looking at, we're never actually looking around us. Okay, the Eye of Africa. One more? Okay. Hi.
Thank you so much for one more. Thank you so much. I just want to ask about the AI agenda and how you see that all working into the mix.
Well, many of the different races use AI, but they use it for menial tasks, to run a ship, to do cleaning, to do maintenance, things of that nature. They never allow it to make decisions for the individual, for any individual, or for society at large. Now, that was created by Google. They were running with something like that. That's never going to happen. The Alliance has already told Space Force and showed them issues about what they were setting themselves up for. Even Billy Meyer's Pleiadians or Plagiarians, whatever they are this week, they even warned about AI, and you know what they warned about was something horrific. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Thank goodness it's not going to happen. And this is what happens when you give a child matches and they don't know what they're doing. So, you know, they gave us nuclear power, we didn't know what we were doing. They gave us time travel, and we didn't know what we were doing. They gave us particle beams, we didn't know what we were doing. And this is how we've gotten ourselves in trouble, is they gave us all this stuff knowing spiritually we were very immature. And that's a guarantee for us to abuse it. Things are changing. They're changing very, very rapidly. And guys, we have an amazing future coming. You know, it's going to be awesome. No, it's all good. It's all good. We got some bumps. Learning the truth, learning about betrayal, learning about the true agenda of those who we used to hold in high esteem. There's some ouches in there. There's going to be some ouches. The truth about Catholicism, some very serious ouches there. But it all has to come out because the ultimate goal here is for us to be self-empowered. And you have to know. We all have to know. They have holographic technology where they literally can play a movie screen in our atmosphere and show everyone the history of the planet. And everybody would see it. You park it in three places in the Earth's atmosphere, and you play the same thing, and everybody would see it. We would all know at the same time. And they would show true history, you know. And we would all be not only mind blown, but we would all be on the same page. They have the tech to do that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Huh? You think they're going to actually do what you said? They could do it. They absolutely could do it. Back in the early 2000s, they were talking about literally giving everyone that was asleep on one side of the planet a download of Earth history. And as they were waking up and the other half of the planet was going to sleep, they would then give them the download. So that within a 24-hour period, by the next day, everybody would have had all the same downloads, and everybody would be exactly in the same page. But questions of free will came up regarding that. So, we are the power. And the question is, what do you want? Sounds simple, right? It sounds simple, but it isn't. Sifting through all the garbage, all the chatter that we have in our heads to finally figure out what it is you really, really want, that makes you happy, that frees your spirit. That's an interesting thing. I'm speaking Sunday. Rumor has it I'm on some panels. I don't know what those are yet. I'm the last to know. But it's been an honor and a pleasure, and ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to serve you.